was I had just finished Donkey Kong. And Donkey Kong was what we call a little man game. At least that's what we called it then. So I was in the mood to do another little man game. A little guy running around doing something. I didn't know what at the time. And what's different then versus now is now pretty much in the video game industry you can come up with a concept and do it irregardless of the hardware. So I come up with a concept and I want to do it on the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One. The hardware is not going to get in my way. I can pretty much do it. Where back then, ideas had to be, they had to take the hardware into account because there were things you just couldn't do with the Atari. No matter how much you tried, you couldn't do it. So creative ideas ended up becoming very much driven by, well, what can the machine do? What can I put on the machine that will look good, that people will recognize what it is? Because the graphics were so bad, you could put something up and people will go, is that a cactus or a chicken? I can't tell, because you just don't know. So I said, well, what guy could I put on the screen that would have something about him that you would be able to immediately recognize? And I said, you know that bowler hat that cops wear in, like, England, the Keystone Cops? I said, that guy, I bet I could do a bowler hat, and if you look at it and go, oh, I know who that guy is. He's one of those old-time cops. So that was part of the initiative, just because I wanted a character that I could make look good. And I had also been playing around with this idea of taking a sprite, which is, you think of it as a column, and taking a piece of the column and shifting in the position of it about 4 lines down, then shifting the next position 4 lines down, and the next position 4 lines down, and ending up with this staggered thing, like this. And I thought it was cool. And I said, let me try changing the number of how many lines are in each step. And when I did that, it scrolled. It went like this. And I said, oh, cool, it's an escalator. I said, I made an escalator. So I said, now I got to come up with a game that has an escalator and Keystone Cop in it. So that was kind of the beginning of the idea. It was as stupid as that. And because I had Donkey Kong on the brain, it was vertical. So it was him climbing up the side of the exterior of a building and a crook going up floor to floor, throwing stuff out of the windows down on the cop, trying to stop him. A little bit of, there was an arcade game named Crazy Climber. Maybe I was influenced by that too. And I don't think at that point I had figured out where to get the escalator in, because we were outside, looking at the outside of the building. And I started doing some code on that, and I had something working. And then David Crane from headquarters in California, we were still in New Jersey, came out to visit, kind of check up on us. And I showed him what I was doing, and he had just finished Pitfall, which was the mega release of all time on the Atari, and it was one of the first of what we call side-scrolling, where character was running side to side, and it was many screens wide. And that was maybe the first, or one of the first games that had that concept. And we spent a lot of time looking at Keystone Kapers, and he said, you should go to side view rather than vertical. Because side view was easier for the Atari to do than vertical for a lot of really complicated reasons, technical reasons. So I said, all right, makes sense. And it was David Crane, I wasn't going to say no. So he left, and I reprogrammed it to go side view. So now it was more like Pitfall. He'd run off the edge of one screen, come on the edge of the other screen, and your eye would forgive it. And you would think it was scrolling, but it wasn't scrolling. It was just flipping from screen to screen. And that was the genesis of it turning from vertical to horizontal. Then I started playing around with, well, then I got to put my escalator in, because that was horizontal, so I could make it that it was floors. A lot of Atari games have a band. You'll notice this is a concept in a lot of Atari games. Horizontal strips. A lot of horizontal strips, because you're programming the game from the top of the screen to the bottom of the screen. And if you keep things in horizontal bands, it's easier to program. So you'll see games like Defender, with Pitfall, Keystone Kapers, Grand Prix, the cars are all driving that way. A lot of that. Barnstorming, planes coming down, flying through a barn, all horizontal. So vertical was a lot of work. Horizontal was easier for the machine, so you could do more. So I made it horizontal, I put in the elevators, I put in the escalators, and then I had the crook basically start on the first screen, and you had to chase him, reach him before he gets to the top of the roof. Because on those early games, we did all our own art. There was no art department. There was no artist. You just did it all. You did your art, your music, your sounds. You did everything. It's a one-man job, and I really worked hard to make that look beautiful. So I put in the Activision Sunset, which had, I believe, first showing up in Barnstorming, which was a game by Steve Cartwright. And I loved the sunset. So I put it in at the top of the building, this beautiful sunset. And I really worked hard to make the cop look good. And I picked objects coming at him that would be fun and look nice animated. Like the flying toy airplane has a little propeller spinning. Yes, and it hits you right in the forehead. Nails you right in the forehead. God, it hurts when that happens. I tweaked the heck out of the game. I mean, so much of this is tweaking. You know, some companies would finish a game, and the day it's done, they'd ship it. Other companies, like Activision back in that era, would finish the game, and then we would play it for weeks. I mean, we would play it for weeks. I'd send it to California. They would play it. You know, this is too hard. This is too easy. Why don't you add this? And you would refine that guy until it was perfect, and then you release it. That's the difference between great products and okay products. Is you don't release them when they have to go out. You release them when they're done.